Welcome to the Multitasking Maven Show. If we haven't met, I'm Rhonda, and I help busy moms scale their business that meets their season of life. I should know because for the past 14 years, I've been busy building a seasonal business that is larger than your local Target, while I've been homeschooling my 4 children, being a soccer mom, and running my household. If it takes you longer to find a link for your business than to stand in line for your favorite drink at Starbucks, we need to talk. Find out why Carol had to say, "You have saved me at least 5 hours a week" with my Productivity Ninja workshop. Let's get into today's episode. We're going to go ahead and get started. This is we're kicking off a series, and I'm really excited to bring on a friend that I met last year, actually, and we had a conversation. We had an interview. I'm not going to go too long, but we had an interview, and her business model and that interview just was so impactful to me. Like, I still think about it and I still talk about it. So welcome, Catherine Morehouse. We are so excited to have you here today.
Thanks so much for having me. It's such a pleasure. I'm really excited to dive in today.
Now, we think of the internet as being this big world. It is this big world because Catherine is actually in South Africa and I'm in South Carolina. I know I say that all the time, and
it's
my
kids.
Well, and my son is actually studying the continent of Africa, and drawing it, labeling it. So we're definitely going to include you on that drawing today.
Please do. Do like a little wavy. It's Catherine.
Exactly. So Catherine is a Pinterest strategist. Do you like to be called a strategist, manager? What do you like to be called, Catherine?
I like to be called a strategist. I focus purely on strategy as well now, and I've moved into education. So strategy just seems like the perfect name at the moment. So Pinterest strategist is perfect.
Well, and that's what I thought, as I was sitting here thinking, I'm like, oh, I didn't even ask her like what she likes to be called. But I would love to start a little bit at the beginning and kind of walk people through your online journey and where you started, and we'll kind of transition into where you are today. Okay?
Perfect, definitely. So do you want me to start with how I got started, or do you have some questions?
No, yeah. That was a big loaded question, so I apologize.
Yes, like
You're like, okay, where do I go with that? Yes. Okay, so she didn't start out as a Pinterest manager, right?
No.
Or you were a Pinterest manager, then you went to strategist. So you didn't start there. So let's start where you started,
Right,
and we'll talk about, yes.
Perfect. So I actually owned a baby clothing company initially, and I met another online business owner through a Facebook group. You know how we all love to network now, which I absolutely love. It makes it so easy to connect with other people. And through my connection with her, I just helped her out in a couple of things. And the one day she was going away, she asked me to take over her Facebook group. I'd never done it before, but I was like, I will do this. I will try, just, give it to me and I'll take over. And then when that had finished, I just sent her an email and I said, is there anything else you need help with? I just loved that everybody was willing to collaborate compared to what I'd grown up thinking about business, where like you keep everything here. So right. I was just like, is there anything I can help you with? Like, I'm loving this. And she mentioned she was looking for a VA. And I'd never thought about that before. But then I was like, you know what, let me think about this. Let me try. So I obviously Googled it a little bit. And I was like, okay, what is this? What does it entail? And at that point, I was like, you know what, let me go for it. Let me try it and see if this is something I enjoy. Because I had a degree in business and marketing, and she was looking specifically for a social media VA. So someone who would take care of that, and then the blog and occasional other admin tasks. So I was like, you know what, this might be a good avenue for me. So I ended up doing that, and I became her VA the 1 month. And again, Google your rates, Google all these things, because you have no idea what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah, and then that's kind of how I jumped into it. I just said yes, and like a month later, we were, off to the races with all of this, like doing everything. And yeah, I did her Facebook page, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, everything, podcast show notes, blog posts. So you kind of get the gist of the overall, VA spectrum that I did in those kind of jobs. And it was about 2 months that I worked with her. I really honed in on the systems, sort of like what I had to do, how I had to do it, what it entailed, how much time it took me, testing out different apps and all those things. So I didn't put pressure on myself at that point to fill up with clients right away. I was still trying to test out what I could do, what I was able to do, and what platforms I could use. And then I really enjoyed it. It was about a month in.
Well, I think it's interesting because this just kind of happened. It wasn't something that you were really seeking out. And that's something I really want people to listen to, because one of the things I love was you were a business owner. And I think that I always recommend people start out as a service provider, but you brought so much to the table with running your own business. And so what happened with the children's clothing line?
That I ended up closing that. And I sort of because I did realize, like, services, you can help people, you can do things. With products, there is so much going on. I spent about 2 years on that business, and it took about a year to get everything moving, all of the products, because it was handmade, so everything you have to make, all of the trial and error and all of that went into it. It just wasn't as profitable at that point. And I know that if I continued with it, it would have been, but it would have taken years to implement those kind of things without the knowledge that the service-based business has given me. So when I started doing the work for her, it brought back all of the things I'd studied, all the things I'd loved before. And I realized I can actually make money doing this, and I'm loving it. And I'm doing it at my computer. And then I realized all the time I was spending on the product-based business, and I was just struggling to get the kind of profit you needed to do all of that. And so much trial and error in that, which was great because I was already managing my social media and everything for that. So that I really enjoyed doing. But then all the technical stuff behind owning a product-based business, it was a challenge, So I do agree with you. I think people should definitely start up with services, just especially if you've never run a business before.
Right.
Because you learn so much from the service-based business, and you can do it at a slow pace, at your own pace, you know what I mean? Whereas a product-based business, you're really trying to get sales as quickly as possible to cover the costs.
When you're working for somebody, they're almost paying you for the training. And I don't know if you know, I launched a boutique line. So children's clothing.
Brilliant.
And awesome. So we would make a sample, we would post it on Facebook, we would sell it, and we would do all of the things. And it is I don't want to say that online work is not tedious and is not, doesn't take a lot of time, but it is a tremendous amount of work with those product-based businesses. And, and I'm glad I did it, because now I can look back and say, for me personally and my lifestyle, what I'm doing, that product-based business is not for me. I don't want to do that.
I completely agree with you. I think sometimes it's that hindsight. You've done both, and now you realize which one you prefer, which one is for you. Sometimes I think everybody does have to sometimes go through the product and the service-based thing, but I totally agree with you. Start with the services so you have that capital to actually invest on the side doing a product-based business. Now, some people go into product-based businesses and succeed really quickly and things like that. But it's tedious. It's a lot of work, and you're probably not going to find a lot of product-based business owners who say, "Oh, this is so easy."
Right. Well, even, looking at being a service provider for someone who has a product, that way you can offer the support, and you can see the inventory struggles, the shipping, all of those pieces and parts coming together. So it's almost like if you think back to college when you were doing an internship, right, to figure out what it was you wanted to do. Be a support to someone who is in a field doing something that you want to do, right? So, and then two, just really quickly, I love, like, when we talk, because I love pulling things out, in that Catherine gave herself permission to say, you know what, this really isn't working for me. I like this over here better. It's not that Catherine failed, or even that I failed. I don't look at any of those experiences as failures. But as a learning process to now bring so much to the table.
It's so true. So true. Sometimes you have to go through that to figure it all out, though. But it's amazing.
How then, okay, so we started, and it sounds like you were more on the social side of things. So how then did you decide that you were going to niche down and start with Pinterest? or moved to Pinterest?
Yeah. So I obviously took on all of the social media channels in the beginning, and I ended up with about 5 clients the third month in, and that was based on referrals purely. And so that was a really nice intro into doing the social media management. But for one of them, I got a Pinterest client only, and that was the first time that had happened. And I thought, because I thought she wanted everything, but she only wanted Pinterest. And I was like, yeah, of course, I definitely do that. So in one sense, I moved towards Pinterest because I had one client that was doing Pinterest and I realized I absolutely loved it. And in another sense, I was working on all these other Pinterest accounts in conjunction with the other social media channels and realized what fired me up was doing Pinterest accounts for all these business owners, was managing it, doing the strategy, planning all of that and implementing it. And the results that I got, it just made me really excited every single time. I knew that that was my favorite part of doing all of the social media management. And it took a while for me to transition. I say a while because in my head I was fighting a lot with myself, like, right. Will I make it? Will I not make it? Can you niche down? You can't niche down. You're going to lose all these clients.
Right, right.
Like, you're never going to make money if you only do one service or niche down to like one specific channel. All these different things that were going on in my head, but it was actually over a period of 4 months. So it wasn't that long,
And she was making money the whole way.
Yes, exactly. And what I did was I started speaking to some of the business owners around me that I looked up to, and some of them were my clients. And I asked them questions like, what do you think about me niching down purely into Pinterest? Like, is that something you think that people would respond well to? And I'd only seen at that point, this was a couple of years ago, I only had seen at that point a handful of people who were doing Pinterest management, and it was always with something else. And there was like maybe 1 or 2 people, I think, that were doing purely Pinterest. So it was kind of this, there was a bit of trepidation. I wasn't sure whether or not this was going to be something that would work out. And then, just talking to people and also taking a look, sort of reflecting into what is it that I want to do? What do I enjoy doing? What am I really good at? What do I seem to just be able to do like this and find the joy in it? Mm-hmm. And things that I just grasp and understand and love. And it just kept coming back to strategy and Pinterest, and that marketing strategy that's involved with that. So I eventually, after many, many conversations, many nights of conversations with my husband as well, going, I'll never make it, all these things go on in your head. I eventually was like, okay, I'm going to do it. And in my head, I kept saying, because I can always go back to all these other social media channels. If you really need to, Catherine, you can do that. Right. But you have to give it your all. If you're going to go for it, you have to give it your all and say, I'm only doing this, and at least give it a year. You know what I mean? And so I stepped into that, and I emailed my clients and I let them know that this was the growth I was experiencing and I loved this. And what I did was I also showed them the results that I was getting from Pinterest. They got monthly reports, but I just, in an email, I kind of highlighted the results I got for Pinterest for them from Pinterest. And I explained to them that this is the direction I was going in, and would they be interested in transitioning into a Pinterest package only? And all of them did. And it blew my mind. So it was very, very exciting. And the next month after that, so that was December at the time, that was a December month, and I finished off with all of them, and then I started that January with just Pinterest, and it was amazing.
So she's making the transition from all of the social platforms, which we all know they are all their own very different platforms, and they respond very differently in terms of strategy. And I kind of already know this, so I'm like really excited to ask this question. So you transition just to Pinterest, but you're offering multiple packages as a Pinterest strategist. So then there was another transition. And guys, this is what was impactful for me. So let's talk a little bit about how you did that, or what that looked like.
Yeah, exactly. So when I had started with this, I had no idea what people would need in terms of Pinterest. I knew that when clients wanted me for their entire social media, or basically all of their social media accounts, it was easy because I knew that I had to just do these certain things. But now focusing on Pinterest, you have to craft a package. So I ended up working with one of my clients at the time, and we discussed this, and I was like, what do you think is a good package? I kind of, back and forth with her, and she was like, this is a fantastic package. Just start with the one. And then, get all your clients onto that package. Once you have that, then you want a tiered package. So something where you've got something that is a bit smaller, a bit bigger, and then your premium package. So I started with my premium package at that point. Okay. Because it had everything included. But the price so far has obviously gone up since then. But it was to get an idea of what was everything, and then what could I reduce down to that would, still be needed by clients. So I ended up tiering that like a monthly package, a starter package, and an overhaul. And a strategy call, at that point. So those are my three things, because I realized some people just wanted an hour with me to discuss strategy, have a little bit of a review of their accounts. And then the second one, some people only wanted 1 month overhaul of their account, get their entire account set up, Pinterest templates and everything, but they wanted to manage it from there. They weren't able to yet have someone take over completely. And then I had the one which was, if you wanted someone to take over your account completely, then that was the premium package.
And then, so you have all of these tier packages, but then what did you find that happened?
A lot of it ended up going to the the one package.
Right. So okay. So why this was so impactful was I work with a lot of service providers, and the main two questions are, where do I find clients, which I'm going to talk about that in just a second. And then two, what are my packages and how do I price them? Right. And so Catherine did that. I mean, she was trying to offer what her community, what her clients were telling her, but then she transitioned into, this is just one service, because to tier all of that, like, I'm not going to work as much for you because you're just in this package, which I know for you, I know that would go against you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the service that you provide. And so why is that so impactful? Because we're looking at her journey where she went from running a product base, then she's like all over for social, right? And now she's niched down, and now it is simplified. And what she said at the beginning, taking a business, what did she want her business to look like? She didn't want to go from something, and I'm not saying that you didn't enjoy your product base, but you want to enjoy what you're doing. We
Definitely.
do this just for the sake of making money. I mean, that's just it's not going to fulfill you totally, and you're going to burn out, and you're going to become frustrated, and you'll quit.
Definitely. Yeah.
So I love that to me just resonated as I was like transitioning online and doing all of these things, and I need to offer all of these things, and I see people doing the same thing. And so basically what you've done is you've just simplified. And when you simplified, kind of one of the things I talk a lot about is time management and organization. So when you simplified, then what did that look like for you in terms of like, go ahead.
Yeah, it saved me so much time, because I realized that everybody was going for that premium package in the end, and that there were a select few that wanted, one of the other things, but it was so few and far between. It wasn't even worth it to work on a sales page for that, because I was getting enough leads from this one premium package. And for me, it was easier because I knew if I had so many clients, this is exactly what I had to do for all of them. And I just need to interject here. Yesterday, you did a training in my Facebook group about workflows, and I implemented it today while I was doing my Pinterest. And so I had a client's Pinterest account I needed to do. I had to do tailwinding tribes, group board applications, all of these things. And I used your workflow, and I ticked through everything. And normally my brain is so scattered, group boards like get left until later. And then this one happens, and I ticked through it all. So that was amazing. I just had to say that in case anybody hasn't got your workflows yet, you need to use them.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, so niching down to that one specific service really helped me in my mind, and also in my time management. I knew that I could bulk schedule, do the tailwinding at one point, do this at another point, and all the clients had very similar requirements. It also helped with sending out emails, responding to clients, what I was pitching what I was, what crafting my message was a lot easier because I had one specific focus now. And I didn't have to go and say, I'll do this for you, I'll do this for you, I'll do this for you, I'll do this for you in like 6 different packages, which I could spend months and months and months crafting sales pages for all these different things.
Right.
I could create a billion things for you, and then I still have to market all of them to find people to buy it. Whereas when you're focusing on one, I love it. If you're selling one product, you're going to spend the same amount of time marketing that one product than you are marketing all the other ones, but you're going to get further with this one product because you're focusing all your attention on this one product, the service. So that's what I was able to do. I was just able to clearly focus on where I spend my time marketing this. And then obviously also where I spend my time on my clients, because I knew that they all had exactly the same package. So I was no longer trying to remember who had what and what was I doing. So it made it a lot easier.
Your confidence level, not only in a discovery call with a potential client, but what is also going on is that your clients are getting success and your clients are talking about you. When I am in any of the Facebook groups that I'm in, when someone asks about Pinterest management, Pinterest strategy, you're tagged in the comments. And that's because you have focus down just on this one thing. The other thing I want to circle back to, the 2 questions: 1, packages; 2, where do I get my clients? If you listen to what she just said a few minutes ago, her first 5 clients, they were all referral based. And I know that you've told a story that you had a huge win for a client in terms of Pinterest and the views. And you sent that information to the client. And then what did the client do?
Posted it all over Facebook, and I got a couple of clients from that.
OMG!
I know, it's crazy.
Yes! Help your clients sell you. That is...
Exactly.
And it's...
You actually reminded me, I need to go and email my clients now.
Yes. Well, and even, just like, and they're not even, I know that Catherine does a very detailed report each month, but what we're talking about is just the random, OMG, look what just happened, and celebrating that because you're complimenting them, and you're complimenting the fact that they made the decision. It's a whole psychology. You're complimenting them that they made the decision to hire you and it's working.
Yeah, exactly. You guys said reverse psychology, like, look, and now
yes,
help me.
Yes. Now, I'm not saying spam all of your clients all the time with like wins, but like the big ones, definitely, because that word of mouth, you can't, and I've said this for years and years, you can't pay, for word of mouth, you know what I mean? No. So that's phenomenal.
Exactly. And also taking a few minutes just to care about their business beyond what you're doing. So asking, like when you're on a call with them, the one thing I realized is whenever I ask them, so how are things going with you? They're like, sometimes they just go, oh, well, and then they want to tell me like how it honestly is going because no one asks them this. So just showing interest makes them more on like a friend basis. Not it doesn't remove the professionalism, but it really does create a relationship between you and your client where they are more likely to refer you because they feel more connected to you. They feel like they can open up to you and that you care about their business.
Right.
And that makes a huge difference.
It does. It's really, I went to the first conference I've been to for my business back in October. And it was just interesting that we as online business owners, we are very distant from anybody. Yes. I mean, we have this interaction, you and I right now, but we really need to take our skills of networking and offline relationships and bring them online, because when you do, just your network completely opens up and it expands in a way that you wouldn't have thought about, because I'm in South Carolina, you're in South Africa, 2 worlds apart. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
Now I would love to move on because now we've kind of seen, we're dissecting your complete journey.
I love it.
We've gone through all, the phases of your business. And now we're talking about scaling, because one of the things as a service provider, we all have the same 168 hours, right? We talked a little bit about that yesterday. So then in your mind, how then did you make that transition? How am I going to scale my business? What were your thoughts about that?
So I had a coach at the time, last year, that I was working with, and she had mentioned, with doing these, focusing on your premium package, you want to be able to offer to something to your audience, whether it's a freebie or a workbook or something like that, where they can take that first step with you before, if they're not ready to commit yet. Like, there's a lot of people who may not be ready to commit monthly, but you want to give them something so they can make a small win, and when they're ready, they're going to come back to you. So she kind of placed that seed in my mind of thinking, I need to do something beyond just this package where I can create it once and I can sell it multiple times, and then also build my audience and network that way. So that was traditionally or originally how I thought I was going to use my digital products. I thought that it was actually going to lead me to get more clients, which it really has. But then I decided that the lifestyle that my husband and I are embarking on this year, we're going to be traveling Europe soon. So
awesome.
Yeah, very exciting. So we are purchasing our laptops and all that kind of stuff, which is very exciting. But I also realized I wanted to balance between managing client work, which I sit down at the computer and do daily, every day, you know what I mean?
Right.
To being able to have a bit of time in the week free to do traveling and do different things like that, but still keep that same income level. And so this sort of came to be out of my Facebook group that I created, my community, and I was just teaching them. Now, my mom's a teacher, and I was like, I will never become a teacher. I was a teacher's kid, and I was like, I will never become a teacher. And I'm telling you, it just runs in the family. It happens like that.
Yeah.
And I started answering questions initially, just people who had basic questions about Pinterest. That's what I started answering. And I was like, you know what, I just want to create a place where people can ask me strategy questions. I can help them and things like that, and see where it goes from there. And that actually developed into me wanting to create a course, because there was just so much information people wanted. And I knew that if I'd been repeating myself so many times, and I was like, if I can put together something where a Pinterest manager or someone who wants to become a Pinterest manager can go through this and know exactly what to do and feel confident when they niche down into Pinterest, then they can take this course. And then I also thought, I've got all these business owners who come to me and they have questions all over the place, whether it's Tailwind, promoted pins. And so I decided this course, again, exactly, I'm going to create something where I can sell it multiple times, but I can create a community around it, and I can explain how it's developed beyond that just now. But that was my thought. In terms of scaling, I was like, I needed that balance between time. So I knew I still wanted to manage my clients' Pinterest accounts, because I love doing that. But I wanted to leverage my time. I wanted to create something as a resource for other business owners that I could sell on a bigger scale. And that's what introduced me into the digital products and the course for Pinterest. But again, it's focused, just doing Pinterest. And even with that course, it's like I could do 7 courses at the moment for Pinterest. I could do 1 on promoted pins. I could separate all of them, but it was like just focus in on doing a core, like a complete course for Pinterest.
Right.
And so that's what I've done. And now beyond that, which is interesting. So just to give you some insight into how my business has developed since launching my course, I decided for my first launch that I was going to do weekly calls just for the first 4 weeks with my members. And that led me straight into realizing that I do love that connection with people. And so now my course is a 6-week group coaching with the DIY course that they do, because I love being able to give that one-on-one feedback. And so it's interesting. As you go, it evolves. You can see now how my business has evolved.
No,
so many things, but.
Well, you have an idea of how something is going to be in your mind. And, online, we look at other people and what other people are doing, and the success or the not success, maybe things that we need to do to change that. I know when we launched our membership site. At first, it was planned one way, and very quickly, within a couple of months, it evolved very differently and looks very differently. Almost a year now that we've done that, and just like you, it's funny. Like, I got a master's degree in teaching, but I have never taught in the classroom. I've homeschooled for 9 years, but I've never taught in the classroom. But it is something when you are in that group, and I know that you'll probably agree with me, I will get done and I'm like, literally the endorphins, I'm like high, like I am so excited. And people are like, come on, this is not real. And I'm like, it is, just like what you said about working the workflows and that you had success. That makes me happy.
I know. I understand. I completely understand. It's just when someone says something like that, you're like, you have made my day. Like, and that's the feeling that you love at the end of the day. If even just one person says, I was able to do this because of what you taught me. You feel like you've changed the world. And I know you have technically changed someone's life.
Yes.
But, and you haven't like saved a life necessarily. Well, you never know.
You never know.
But but that feeling, I totally understand. It's just that you feel like you've done something that's made a difference in someone else's life. And there's nothing like it.
No. And just kind of going back to the idea of now evolving to kind of like your signature Pinterest course, what you're doing obviously is diversifying your revenue streams, which I also recommend. I don't think we should stay in one lane, because you never know how those lanes are going to change down the road. And certainly you do want to put the focus, you want to have the passion, you want to do all of the things. But you also, as a business owner, you're bringing in an income now, and you have to protect that income, right? Because you need to eat. And I'm going to meet you in Europe this summer. I just know I'm going to meet you. Oh my gosh, that's insane. So actually, okay, so I got to bring this up. So you're traveling Europe, and my son is going to be a senior, and we're doing an RV across country to California.
Oh, lovely.
So you're living my Europe vacation, and I will live your stateside vacation, okay?
Please do, exactly, because that is something my husband and I want to do as well. So you're living that part.
So we're hitting bucket list here.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so now a couple of things I just want to bring back. We're talking time management, because I've got to go to time management and tools. Definitely. So one of the things that you were talking about is batching your work. Right?
Yeah.
Scheduling your work, obviously, because if you've got the clients and now we're working on a course, what are some of the favorite tools that you use in order to help you manage your time in your business?
So I have two. I actually use both, which is Trello and Asana.
Okay.
So I started with Trello, and then I've evolved into Asana as well. And I love them both. And Asana is actually my daily calendar. I did a course on it, and it's just set up really well for me to manage my day for ticking off tasks. And then I have another Trello board, which captures all the other information I need for my actual business. So it gives me two nice flows like that. But those are probably my two favorites in terms of managing my time, my business, what I need to do. One of the biggest struggles is when you are trying to create a course or a digital product or anything in addition to managing client work, is just, where do you find that time? Where do you make space for that time? And then also making sure you stick to what you've scheduled in. So definitely bulk scheduling as well. But I've also, as like the years progressed, so the couple of years that have progressed, I've actually figured out what works for me. And sometimes it's very different to other people, but I had to test a whole bunch of, a variety of things, where sometimes I'd say, okay, let me look at a month and what I have to get done, and say, is the first week going to be just tailwind? And the second week's just my business, and the third week's just client work. So I tested that, and so I'm evolving into something that seems to be working better and better for me. So I always say, like, once you find the tools that you love, like, stick to those tools, learn how to use those tools, and then also figure out what system works for you, and then apply that. Don't jump to every other 60,000 systems. Test them out, but test them out and quickly move on to the next if you realize this is not working. You know what I mean? And so for me, those two have been the biggest in terms of time management.
That's interesting because I've not heard many people, well, I have heard just general VAs where they would use both because clients would use both. One would use Asana or Trello, but not using them in conjunction with each other. And the thing that I love about both of those tools is that they are free. And that is amazing, the power of those tools, and that they're free. And I think, too, it goes along with, you know, if you start with Asana, I think you're going to love Asana. If you start with Trello, you're going to love a Trello. Because I'm the Trello. I've tried to get into Asana, but I can do it. But I even started out with Basecamp, to be honest with you. Yeah. So just really quickly, I'm interested to know, do you have a team that works with you, or are you just solopreneur, just Catherine?
I was solopreneur all the way up until January this year. And then I hired the amazing Leslie Laws to do my Facebook. So she is running my Facebook page for me. So that's, I've just outsourced that. I still run my Pinterest and all the other areas, but that was an area that I get a lot of leads from Facebook, and I wanted to make sure I was maximizing that as much as possible. But I knew that it wasn't, that my focus could be on my blog, on my, my website, on the sales pages and the emails and those kind of things. So she actually took my course. We connected before that as well. She's now my Facebook manager, and I love
Interesting.
it.
So like, as far as your client management and working on your course, that is still 100% you? Amazing. So you have to have your time management down then. Absolutely. In order to do all of those. Wow. That's amazing.
I'm hoping to eventually get it to that point, but maybe after a couple of launches, I'll be ready for that.
Cool. What trends do you see, as we're kind of early in the year, what trends are you seeing that are changing or moving quickly in Pinterest?
In Pinterest specifically? So with Pinterest, a lot of it last year was all about SEO. So it was realizing that Pinterest is a search engine, that you need to use keywords in your blog posts and in your pin descriptions and all those different places. This year, the CEO was talking about visuals becoming a really important part of Pinterest, and that the visual side of the search engine is actually an interesting concept to look into. Now, he went into a lot of detail, and a lot of that can sometimes fly over the head. So I always say, until it becomes a commercial thing, so something that is widespread across Pinterest and we can all understand it, don't worry too much about it because it can be too complicated. But they obviously using visuals to search. So if someone takes a picture on Pinterest using their lens, it can pick up other products on Pinterest. Amazing. So it's just about understanding how you lay out your image on Pinterest, and then your images will pop up if you've tagged them properly with the right keywords and you've obviously taken a good picture. So it's clear to Pinterest's visual, I don't even know how they do it, but that's why it kind of goes over my head too. But the visual side is becoming really important. So for example, if on the couch behind me there's a cushion in a specific color, I take a picture of it with my Pinterest app with the lens, and it will actually show me all the cushions on Pinterest that either relate to the color or relate to the fact that it's a cushion, and I can search that way.
That is amazing. I guess that really does get it across. It is a visual search engine.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, exactly. I didn't even know that. That's amazing.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
What do you think?
Blows your mind.
Do you think that they are expanding on promoted pins? I mean, what do you think about, is that really going to be a big trend for 2018, you think?
I think they are definitely going to be focusing on promoted pins as well. I think the one thing that they have mentioned as well, and the CEO mentioned this in his report as well, he was saying that with promoted pins, he said they're becoming a bigger thing. A lot more people are actually promoting content on Pinterest, but from their research, they found that Pinterest users will stay on Pinterest longer when people are scrolling through a feed and they aren't interrupted. If they're interrupted, they'll end up leaving Pinterest or not coming back because they keep getting interrupted in their feed. Mm-hmm. So with promoted pins, what Pinterest is trying to do is make sure that when you promote a pin, it fits in with the aesthetic of whatever they've searched for, and that it doesn't show up differently to another pin. So it just moves with their scroll, because they don't want pinners to end up leaving Pinterest, because then they're obviously not going to have the base there for any promoted pins, for people to see it or click through on it. So they're trying to make it easier for pinners to enjoy promoted pins on Pinterest by not making it stand out too much. So it's kind of got to go with the flow of your Pinterest feed. So I think for Pinterest businesses who are actually promoting on Pinterest, you're going to find that there's a lot more push towards promoted pins, because they are not making it a jarring image that stands out there. They've got a lot of specific guidelines they want you to follow because they want it to flow really nicely. But another thing is, recently they updated the promoted pins campaign manager to actually separate the keywords. I think that was like at the end of last year, where you could do you could set your keywords and it could be exact match, phrase match, or like an overall match. Before, you could only just put keywords in, and now you can actually say, I want this pin to show up if someone types in exactly this phrase. Oh, wow. And then you can say, I want this promoted pin to show up and if they type a basic or a broad match to this phrase. So they're definitely trying to work on promoted pins quite a bit as well.
I looked at it as kind of the Wild West over there, and just a huge, I want to call it the blue ocean of opportunity, because all of the things that you're saying, Facebook is almost kind of backpedaling. We have to do videos. We have to engage within 3 seconds. And there's so much, because they promoted, doing ads and targeting and all that good stuff on Facebook. Now you really have to jump through even more hoops in order to get, your client to you. Whereas right now, it seems to me with Pinterest is that you can, if you play by the rules, the SEO, the visual, that there's greater opportunity is what I'm trying to say. So
definitely. And they're also very particular. Like if you have an image, a Pinterest image, and it's got a picture of a button on it. So if you made a little button that said free PDF or anything, they won't let you promote that pin. It can't have anything that's going to indicate click me or buy me or do this or do that, because they want it to flow with Pinterest. And so that, I think, is very different to what originally Facebook was doing, where they wanted you to do promoted ads and things like that. Now they're trying to say, you can't have as much text, you can't have this, you can't do this, you can't do you can't use engagement page, you can't use all of this. And Pinterest, thankfully, is actually saying that right from the beginning. This has to work with the pinners, not against them, which is really good.
Well, Catherine, I have loved our conversation. I hope you guys have enjoyed kind of dissecting Catherine's journey from product-based to social media manager to now Pinterest strategist and offering digital products, her signature Pinterest course. I have above this video where you can find Catherine, her website, catherinemorehouse.com. And then I've included in there her Pinterest profile, so you definitely want to check her out there. But then too, you have a private Facebook group that you're talking about as well. How can people find you there?
So I have a Pinterest strategy Facebook group where I do some live trainings to help you with Pinterest. And that would be at facebook.com/groups/Pinterest strategy.
Okay.
That's okay. So you're just looking for /Pinterest strategy after groups.
Okay, and it's a private group too. So I'll go ahead and I'll edit the link and I'll put that in here as well. And then finally, we're just going to wrap up just with everything that Catherine and I talked about. We've put together for you the EPIC Business Success Workbook. That's a lot of work. No, it takes you through Catherine's journey from goal setting, what your dream business, what does it look like, time management, and then really, what are your passions? What do people ask you about? And it ties everything up with a nice little bow. So thank you so much, Catherine. I have enjoyed our time together today, and good luck. Good luck
Thank
this
you
year.
so much. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on here. I've had such fun. I love chatting to you always. It's such fun. I love it.
Well, it's 5 o'clock her time. I think it's 11 o'clock my time, so I'm going to go grab some lunch.
Awesome. Have an amazing day. And to everybody on Facebook as well, have an amazing day.
All right.
And
Thank you, Catherine.
Rhonda, we'll chat soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. For show notes and links, go to multitaskingmaven.com. While you're there, we're continuing the conversation in the private Facebook group. You can find your invitation. Until next week.